Oh my God, Dr. D, what can I say about you in one word?
Who is this guy?
Family man, patriarch.
A change agent, different, a good different.
Complex, and at the same time, very easy to read.
I want to use two, like I said before, tough cookie.
Knowledgeable.
He likes honesty, and if he catch you in a lie,
He doesn't like the bullshit.
Take no prisoners, and I mean that in a good way.
Prolific.
Consequential.
He never lets you forget. That's Dr. DeGiulio.
That is the guy who came back in here and changed all of our lives.
We had an executive director that nobody seems to like. And he came in as a consultant, and he rallied around Bob to have Bob to take the position of executive director.
Those of us who have been around for so many years still think of this agency as CAP. We've grown to be Greater Bergen. We used to meet in a little trailer down on Kansas Street. And on rainy nights when the board would meet, we'd have to put our feet up on the rungs of the chairs because we'd have a half inch of water on the floor.
So Allan and I met in 1984, I think. And Allan came along as a consultant, and he really helped lead a transition from that very poor leadership to what would become the future. And then Allan went back to his prior profession in higher education and went out west to run a couple of colleges. And then he finally came back, a number of years later, when he had finally had enough of higher education, and we formed a partnership, which really began to define the future of what is now Greater Bergen Community Action.
It was started with a small population in Bergen County, and he was able to engage that staff. And then when we took over Jersey City and Patterson, even more. He's a huge advocate for not only our clients, but primarily our employees. We're his community, and he started with that, and then he makes every effort to be involved with the families that we serve in Patterson, and that we're involved with Jersey City and Bergen, and continues those community initiatives.
And we focused in those early days on a huge problem in the community that nobody was really doing anything about in a significant way, and that was the homeless problem. The cops in Hackensack would just pick up the homeless and drive them back to another town, and then the cops in that town would just pick them up and drive them back to Hackensack. And it was just a process of really what the homeless shelters were cop cars, basically. And there were no services, and nobody was doing anything about it. So, Allan, played a big role in helping to, organize responses in a tangible way to that problem.
We didn't have all of the services we have now. We always had the basic services, Head Start, LAHEAP, weatherization. Allan along with Bob, we've had all these other programs that are more social work programs, ladder phases, the housing for the women in Inglewood, the housing for mentally ill, formerly homeless people in Inglewood as well. So, Spice and Prime, all those programs came along at that time. So I think a lot of that was due to him, and I think at the time he used to write a lot of the grants back then, so I think a lot of that was due to directly to Allan.
The next big thing that Allan brought, and it was based in large part on his experience in higher education, was our whole education and training program. And so Allan came in and really created our education and training initiatives, which have evolved and changed over time based on needs in the community and based on how funds flow. But that whole area of importance in adult education all started through Allan's efforts in creating those early training programs.
ESL program is huge. We started out with 100 students a year to 500 now. Our New Americans program expanded, again, because he's so pro-education and he's he wants everyone to be educated and trained. So that brought us from a small little agency, a department, to a larger and bigger, and we can reach out to more people now.
Our work in Head Start is something that Allan has had a major impact in. He really specialized in upgrading the core competencies of our Head Start staff so that our federal reviews were always stellar, and that led to getting more money. And that ultimately led to the expansion of Head Start into Jersey City and into Patterson.
So when we went to Jersey City, it was right after we had just won the grant in Patterson. 1 year later, we applied and won the grant in Jersey City, and we were bringing early Head Start to Jersey City. It wasn't there before. And the biggest problem was we needed people who had their infant toddler CDA. And Allan said, I remember being in a DCP&P training, and I got a call from the main office. I went into the hallway, and he said, listen, this is what we're going to do. You have to have a meeting with parents. We're going to provide CDA training. And I said, what do you mean we're going to provide CDA training? Don't worry about it. We're going to get CDA training, and we're going to get it running fast. Well, how are we going to pay for that? He said, and he said, Mary Cadena, you don't have to worry about how we're going to pay for it. You just need to get the parents together. And that's what we did. We started on July 1st. July 2nd, we had our first meeting. July 7th, we had an interest meeting. And I think 2 weeks later, we started the training. And that's the way Allan was. Formidable sometimes. Like, don't tell me the obstacles. I'm telling you the way it's going to go. And that's what we did.
Whatever Allan wants, Allan gets.
Allan's impact in the community is unmistakable. I just have to open my window and I can hear the kids playing outdoors at the Michael's Energy preschool here in Patterson, which Allan helped to save so that those 200 kids could have that preschool. And so, just hearing those kids on a daily basis at their preschool reminds me that he's had an impact here in Patterson. And of course, it goes well beyond Patterson and all the work that he's done in Bergen County.
One of the last big things that Allan did was help to found First Bergen Federal Credit Union. We started the first credit union chartered in New Jersey in over 20 years. And Allan was kind of the leader of the team early on because it was such an arduous process. It took us 3 years to get a charter. Allan constantly focusing the working group, bringing in the right consultants, firing the wrong consultants. Just moving the process enabled us to get it done. And Allan has chaired that board the entire time. And his leadership in that chair position, has enabled us to recruit a solid board and maintain really strong quality relationships between Greater Bergen and First Bergen. I think you're going to see over time thousands and thousands of families become members of First Bergen Federal Credit Union, and thousands of low-income families have a better financial situation because of the work of First Bergen. And that's just a gift that we'll keep on giving.
I think about Allan in terms of sustainability. So he's someone to me that really understands people in poverty and understands the resources that are needed and never backs away from making sure that what's needed is what's getting done. I think that's his essence, where he can look at so many different things and zero in so quickly on what is the most critical thing. And that is such a gift he's given our network and people in poverty over the years. He could get right to the chase and really pull out what is the most important things to move forward, to transform, and to reintegrate our communities.
Yeah, but don't think Dr. D is all work and no play.
My all-time favorite thing to do with Allan is eat somewhere.
Allan was always picking up the tab, and he would always make it a comical moment because he knew that at the end of the day, he was always picking up the tab.
He was always fun to be with, especially ranking time. We used to go to conventions, and he liked to pick the spot, pretty much pick the menu, where we were going to go, what we were going to eat, and don't know, he was always just a fun guy.
His favorite team of all teams is the New York Yankees.
I remember when I came, to bring that paperwork, and I had my son, who was probably 9 or 10 at the time, and when we got back in the car, he said, "Mom, you have got to make sure you never tell him we're Mets fans." He said, "Did you see his office?" He said, "There's Yankee stuff all over the place." Of course, I hadn't even noticed that.
He's told me a number of times that I'm on a day-by-day probationary period. So if you take that and you add it up, I've been on probation with my direct boss, Allan, for now 7,600 plus days.
Dr. D, who is Dr. D?
Dr. Allan DeGiulio is kind of the, I'm going to say godfather, not grandfather, although grandfather might work, he might be 100 and something, of community action in New Jersey.
He's like your eccentric uncle that you see at family gatherings who you have to dodge a couple of good-natured jabs in order to get into a conversation with him. But then when you start talking to him, you realize that he has a depth of knowledge and understanding that you would just love to sit for hours and pick his brain about his experiences and get advice from him.
I would say that Dr. Allan DeGiulio is the guy who seems to have your back and to care a lot about you, even though you don't know exactly how you earned that from him. And that's a special thing.
Allan is the nicest, grumpiest person that I think I've ever met. And here's what's funny. I would be in a meeting with Allan, and he is a tough as nails negotiator, and I'd get mad at him. And then I'd go home and I'd look at Facebook, and I'd see him surrounded by his beautiful family, and I'd look at it and I'd say, could this be the same man, this loving father and grandfather? Could this be the same man that I just wanted to strangle?
Sure, that actually could fall into any describable box. Allan is one of those people that when you meet him, there's an intensity and a passion and a brilliance about how he shows up for everything that he does.
Everything he does and everything he has done has impacted the communities that have adopted him. And we should all be very proud of that.
Gentle giant, I would say. He's hardcore on the outside, but he's very sweet on the inside if you get that opportunity. He's a really good person.
Dr. D has been like, kind of like a father figure to me. He's helped me out a lot. I've been here for 12 years. He's a strong person. He's very determined. He's Dr. D.
He's a very intelligent, likable guy that can relate to people. Needless to say, he has devoted most of his life to helping others. I know of his background. I know that he taught and that he was the dean at Fairleigh Dickinson University. And I know, of course, for many, many years, he worked with Bob in this agency. And anybody who wants to spend their life trying to help others, in my book, is a person to be admired. More so than the so-called, guys who run Wall Street or whatever. Some people admire, but I admire the kind of guy that Allan is, and he exceeds that type of person.
And I remember thinking, who is this gentleman who just is so eloquent and prolific and passionate at the same time? And that was one of my first times meeting Allan at a state association meeting. And ever since then, I always felt like he was home for me. He gave me a place of home.
Wow, Allan, I honestly thought that I would leave here first.
Oh, dear Allan. Okay, now I guess this is where everybody starts to cry.
It's difficult to imagine Greater Bergen Community Action without Allan DeGiulio.
You've taught me a lot.
You are truly an exceptional professional.
It's hard for me to think of GBCA without you.
I am really so happy to have had the honor and the privilege of working with you.
And I want to keep our friendship alive forever.
Thank you for investing in my life personally and seeing something in me perhaps that I did not see in myself.
Enjoy this new chapter in your life. You've done a lot of good here.
So I wish you the best in retirement, Allan.
I wish you all the best.
I wish you a very, very, very happy retirement.
I wish you a healthy and happy retirement.
And many, many, many more years of continued health and happiness.
And thank you for all of the years of service you've given to us.
And I can't thank you enough.
And you're going to be missed.
But mostly, I will miss your warmth, your kindness, and your generous spirit.
I'm not going to say parting words to you, Allan. This shall not be the end of our relationship. It shall simply be the beginning of our next relationship.
Good luck. Best wishes. See you soon.
I wish you well. The legacy you've left behind will impact us all forever.
Thank you, Allan.
Thanks, Allan. All right.